The next session is going to be on smart technologies for charging EVs. Now, key to increasing the customer base of EVs is to have easily accessible smart charging technologies, from faster wireless charging to managed charging, vehicle to grid charging. In addition, Union Government too has been working with manufacturers to develop low-cost charging infrastructure for 2- and 3-wheelers. So, for this session, I'd invite on stage the panel members, Mr. Akshit Bansal, founder, Statiq, Kapila Soni, Managing Director, Croyance Automotive Private Limited, Krishna Jasti, CEO, EVRE, and the moderator for this session is going to be Mr. Amresh Khar, co-founder, Mad About Vehicles. I'd request my team members to please make sure that our guests are mic'd up. Mr. Khar, since ma'am is coming, we can probably start off with the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Very good evening to everybody, or namaskar. I hope this event is going to be more massive. The days are going on and prolonging. I think yesterday it was a fun day too for all of us, with having a lot of eminentaries who had been here with us. Today, as we start this charge forum since morning, and there is a lot to learn. Lot to learn from the eminent people who are already developing this and building the infrastructure for all of you, for all of us, and the consumer who is at the end of the day on the stake, who is looking at that this infrastructure should help him build the whole ecosystem. We all are here with Mr. Akshit Bansal from Statiq. Let's welcome with a round of applause, guys. Statiq, he's a co-founder at Statiq and building the ecosystem with the smart chargers across the country and the nation. We have Krishna Jasti, who is the CEO of EVRE, Amplify Clean Tech, and developing infrastructure again on the startup side of it for government as well as the commercial side of it in the societies. We have Kapila Soni, who should, she's joined us. Kapila Soni, she's Managing Director for Croyance Automotive Solutions, and she's here to share a lot of things around the ecosystem and the new vehicles which they are bringing very soon for us. Looking at smart technologies, I think this is a very, very important thing. We all should know what is a smart EV charging actually, right? We have seen the eminent country growing since previous few years in the two-wheeler segment, right, gentlemen? And the other sectors are equally taking the pace along with it and growing. Four-wheelers, who were like little away, I think we are hearing from every auto manufacturer coming with one or the other alternate model. Now the question comes in, is charging easy or is charging very integrate or difficult? I would say let's keep charging as simple side of it, because it's currently in our mind. We have to switch it on and switch it off, like a switch off a charger or an electricity button which we have at every home, right? So what is a smart charger for me? Is like this adoption of EV from a customer base is growing, right? At the pace of scale of what we say, if we are at 100% stake of infra of EV, 80% is on a low speed, which is a two-wheeler community, and 20% gradually is increasing towards the high speed. Now this 20% may not be a very big number today. Even the 80% of low speed may not be a very big number. But look at the graduation it has taken. And this has been only possible by having a smart adoption by people like us, people like you over here, right, who are here to look at what exactly we are building. So today in this whole forum, what we will take forward is, we'll understand the smartness of the charging infra grid. We will try to understand and put some questions around why smart charging is important. Is it that something is difficult? That's why we are trying to create a smart charging infra? Or is it something that the cost economics, which is very important for a customer to understand, we need to work on that. Today we are hearing a lot from government and the ministries that we have a lot of what we call subsidies coming in the space of EV, and there could be something heard very soon, maybe in the charging, maybe we don't know. We'll hear it from the gentleman out here today. Right, so it brings me a buzz today. Before we move to the whole question sequence and all, let me welcome, I would say first is Krishna from EVRE, wherein we would like to understand a perspective on why they entered into the smart charging.
So I basically come from the electric vehicle background. So I come from the electric vehicle background. So I used to work in the US with Audi and Chrysler on electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles. So that's been an area that I always wanted to be associated with. Wanted to move back, start something on my own. And of course, I thought EVs, getting into EVs have something, the barrier of entry for electric vehicles, I think, is either too high or too low. Too high in the sense you build a vehicle which is great, which takes a lot of effort, money to develop. Too low in the sense you can literally build a vehicle in 1 week by getting kits from anywhere you want. So I thought that was not the space to be. So I was working with electric vehicle charging stations in the US from about 2011. I've seen that apart from charging becoming quicker, which is the limitation on the vehicle end, there has been very little, technology improvement in the charging station. The way you use it, the way charging stations were used 10 years back and today more or less is the same. You tap a RFID card or scan a QR code. So that is something I thought could be changed. So that is something we started focusing on.
Great, Krishna. I think it's itself a brief introduction of yourself. So let me put the similar question across to Akshit Bansal here from the Statiq. And I think they're doing a pretty neat work in the market today. Let's hear why this charging is the business which they have really chosen forward for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, as Krishna, I also started working in the EV domain. So I was in a team which was building solar vehicle, and we wanted to do it for India. But when we started to build out like electric vehicles, we found out that there was a bigger problem in India. Like unlike other foreign markets, other developed markets, Indian markets were not ready for EVs. And one of the main reasons was there was no practical charging infrastructure when we started out, right? And that was if I take comparison of developed worlds, why EVs are successful there, people can charge at home because they have garages. In India, it's very, very densely populated, right? So people do not have accessibility to charging station. Then our infrastructure was broken. So there was a lot of issues of the infrastructure itself before the EVs can take up. And that's why we started in this.
That's interesting. So, yeah. I think it's something, a very new way of looking at that the infra was an issue while we were looking at a charging. That's an interesting point to take from here. Maybe let's start before we begin actually the whole process. Kapila, why don't you say something about yourself and why don't you introduce yourself? Why into EV business for all of us? Yeah.
Am I audible?
No. Mic. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So we are not into charging business right now. We are into the producer, we are into the production of electrical EV and four-wheel segment. Actually, we were about to launch our vehicle here only at EV Expo, but unfortunately due to some documentation problem, we have postponed it. So we're going to launch our four-wheel EV in the month of January 2022. And yes, charging infrastructure is the major boost for EV segment. Like for any electrical vehicle, you need to have a better charging infrastructure, then only EV can work out, and then only EV can be a better boom for in the coming years. So right now charging infrastructure, charging systems is developing quite rapidly, and that too at a very nice level. So definitely in the next coming years, EV will be a boon for everyone. EV will be the main segment to rule the roads then.
Great. I think let's have a first round of applause for everybody for just having a brief introduction for all of us. Without wasting our time, because we are really on the countdown here. So I request Kapila, why don't you start with your own presentation, because that will give a little of introduction for us to understand what's coming, because that's wherein we all have to understand why this grid station and the smart charging we will be able to provide and make it more user friendly for all of us. Yeah,
sure.
Please, your presentation please. By the time the presentation is getting set, I have a question for the audience, and please don't see Google, because Google is the master out here for all of us. Can anybody tell me which was the first country to have smart charging legislative council? Very interesting, right? We are still on the first infra stage and I'm asking something very different. Please, anyone has an answer can raise his hand. The country which started the first in the world which included the smart charging legislation council. Yes, I think. Norway, no. Something very closer, yes. You're ready?
Yeah.
Presentation is ready? Great. So the answer is Finland actually, where it started completely with the legislation around this smart charging. Guys, so we are on the basic step 1. So see where we have to go. And India being a country of population size, which in length and breadth we are spreaded and we need it. And we have still not started talking around it, right? So with this, please, Sonia, please go ahead.
Okay. So let me start this presentation with a simple introduction about Croyance Automotive, that is my own company. Myself, Kapila Soni, founder and managing director of Croyance Automotive. Now, just a brief introduction about Croyance and our upcoming vehicles and how charging infrastructure will definitely lead EV industries ahead. So first of all, the name Croyance. Croyance is the French word. It means trust and belief. People generally ask me, Croyance, is this the Indian company? So yes, Croyance is 100% Indian company. And Croyance, we have taken this word from the French dictionary, that is, it means trust and belief. Our vision is to create a green technology for today, tomorrow, and forever. Because we believe e-mobility is what the future in the transportation system and across the world. We have established this company in 2015, 11th of December, and sustainability and giving back to the society is what the main core principle for us. Right now, we are about to have our 2 vehicles, our 2 models. First one will be this, that is Electro 1T. This model will going to have it initially for the internal purpose. That is not for the government road, not for the on-road purpose. We're going to have it for internal movement. The word Electro 1T, the name we have given to it stands for, Electro stands for electric, Cro stands for Croyance. So Electro 1T stands for Electric Vehicle of Croyance Automotive. This will going to launch maybe in the next 6 months with a loading capacity of 1000 kgs and 150 kilometer will be the distance, driving distance in one charge. The next vehicle that we are about to present here at this EV Expo show, but it got delayed. This is Electro J 0.8, that is the loading capacity of 800 kg, that is less than 1 ton. It can cover the distance of 150 kilometers with single charge with the load, and per kilometer running cost will be less than a rupee. Per kilometer running cost will be less than a rupee for this vehicle. Overnight charging, it will take 4 to 5 hours, and at the smart charging stations with the smart chargers, obviously within 1 hour it can be done. Maintenance free, as it is the electric vehicle, so it is the maintenance free, that is very less parts is to be maintained. And we have given it a power steering, and for like no hand brakes required here, even if you are at the incline level. Just a minute. Our main target initially is to go for the metropolitan regions, that is Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai, Bangalore, and Hyderabad, and Jaipur also. What is smart EV charging? Now, the main topic here for what we are here is what is smart EV charging? EV charging is simply referred to as, like smart EV charging is referred to as the intellectual charging system, wherein vehicle and charging device share the proper data. Now, there are 2 ways of charging any electrical vehicle. First is by simple charging, that is, there is no intellectual level, like there is no, we often call it as a dumb charger, where we just plug in the vehicle and vehicle get charged. The next and the most important that we are using right now is the smart charging device, and this charging device is the smartest one. Like, thank you. So it not only charge your vehicle, but also monitors, manage, and regularize everything the owner, the company, and the charging station person wants to get. Now, the benefits of EV charging is it helps the EV owner to maintain the well-being of the electrical vehicle, like to get to know when to get the vehicle charged, when to look after the battery maintenance, and when to be when it is to be charged, where it is to be charged, at what traveling distance it is to be charged. It helps producers like us to keep the record, like when it was overloaded or when it was overcharged, and why the vehicle or the battery is not performing up to the mark. Even it helps fleet owners to keep the detailed track of the vehicle and the route also. Like the smart chargings give a complete solution to the vehicle owners, to the producers, and to everyone, those who are associated with it. As far industrial policies are concerned, there are many incentives. There are many incentives lined up here, like 20% incentives up to 50 lakhs of projects. So these are the industrial policies for the EV setups to be done. And as per the latest government quotation, government is planning to have 30% adoption of electrical vehicles by 2030. That is overly for two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and for the commercial vehicles. And that's why we are into the great segment, because this is the booming segment right now. And the biggest advantage for Croyance Automotive is like we are into the production and the management producer of the four-wheel electric cargo. And we are into, like initially we are going to about to have our intercity movement as well as in the intracity movement. Initially we'll come up with the intercity movement with the driving distance of 150 kilometers, and then later on it can be extended to 400 to 500, but that is in the testing phase right now. And our most the preferred partners and the companies or the MNCs that have shown keen interest to work with Croyance Automotive, like we are proud to have Akshay Patra Foundation with us. We are having Oryx approach, Oryx and PNG, Amazon India, Kamla Pasand Group, JSW. They have approached, these are the many companies they have approached us for their last mile deliveries as well as for the internal movement within their factory premises. And here I ended with my presentation. I'm sorry with my throat problem. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it was a simple and brief presentation. I'm sure there is a lot to take away from this whole forum in the whole day. We are just a part of doing one part of it, right? So gentlemen, we will have some audience poll questions also for people wherever you guys have any interest. Before that, I would request Akshit Bansal to talk about the charging infra, smart possibilities, what exactly is going to happen or what's happening or how the transformation from last 2 years had been happening. Akshit, over to you, please.
Do I go there?
Anywhere, wherever you're comfortable from.
So I think, so in terms of like smart technologies, I'll just give you a brief about Statiq and what we are doing at Statiq. So at Statiq, we're trying to build the largest network, EV charging network possible, and we aggregate a lot of other charge point operators onto a single platform so that people can find these chargers, they can book the charger, and they can pay directly from the charger itself. You do not need a human intervention there. And so what we have seen in the last 2 years and how we have grown in terms of technology, especially in terms of smart charging technology, is that all these chargers can be managed remotely. So you can get a lot of data about the charger health. We can do a lot of analysis on the chargers. We can do load management. So based on the demand that is there of the building and of the charger, we can do load management. So as and when the chargers grow and as and when more EVs grow, there's a lot of requirement for load management, energy management at the back end, not just at the charger, but between the building and the charger. And there's load management between the car and the charger, right? Apart from that, in terms of smart technology, we also see a lot of renewables being added to the charging system like solar. So when solar comes into the picture and we integrate solar into charging, we need a lot of energy management systems there because the solar is like not standalone, right? It is not off-the-grid solar most of the times in India. It is on-grid solar. So sometimes you're using solar power and sometimes you're using the grid power. And you use dual meter to give back the solar. There needs to be smarter technologies developed for this whole energy management system of renewables as well as the grid. Apart from that, going further, as more and more EVs come, we would definitely see a lot of vehicle to grid coming into picture because a lot of these EV cars can be considered as energy storage systems, energy storage bodies to stabilize the grid. So when there's peak demand, the grid can be stabilized with these cars that are connected via the chargers to the grid. Because like 95% of the time, the cars are parked, right? There's energy management, load management, there's charger management, there's vehicle to grid, and then going forward, we also see like wireless charging coming in. We've seen this happening in countries like Norway, Finland, who have taken up like initial pilots to do this with taxis. So what they've done is in certain areas of the city, they have like wireless charging pods where just taxis come and stand. And whenever they have a customer coming in, they just walk off from there without plugging in. So that's a beautiful use case. Apart from that, in terms of wireless charging, there's a POC done in Sweden, I think, where they've laid out like 100 meters of road with wireless charging material, and cars can just run over it and they get charged. So all these technologies in terms of charging are evolving, and we would see a mix of them happening in India as well. And as Statiq, we are working on some of these technologies. Right now, we are working with energy management, integrating solar and charger management, and then going forward, we are looking to develop like wireless charging technologies as well. In terms of charging, especially what I feel is that battery is also very, very important and not just the charger, because charger is just like power electronics delivering power to the battery. Now, so I cannot like leave this topic without talking about the battery, because batteries also need to like fast charge in terms to make this whole ecosystem like more reliable and more accessible and to the general public, right? So we see a lot of innovation happening in the battery space as well. Lithium is getting like we are removing cobalt. We are bringing in newer materials like aluminum, replacing lithium, and trying to like fast charge the batteries. So yeah, that is also what we can do there.
Okay, interesting. That's great. So let me first define something for all of us. I think this is something very interesting we all are going to hear, and we are hearing some doubts which are getting cleared. So to me, a smart charging is something very, very easy, for an easy understanding for all of us over here. We should know what a smart charging for me is. I think for an electric vehicle which is talking to a charging connection, and from a charging connection, that means there is an interperception of the data which transfers from a battery to the charging point for getting that particular amount of energy back into the system. And that is what it should come, is what it throws back based on the different adoptions of the batteries which we are going to have. Because charger is just one unit somewhere, but my mobility, I go with a 48 volt, someone will come with a 60 volt. It's to understand the data, right? The data science which is gonna, and this is gonna be the key in coming times, and we all are already seeing that the BMS is gonna play a bigger role for whole of this crisis, which is to be understood for electric mobility. Like rightly said, Akshit, that the battery is equally very important when we look at a smart charger. There is also one more typical thing. I think you all will agree with me. How many of you say swapping is easy? Battery swapping is easy than a battery charging. So battery swapping is easy than a battery charging. I think 4 hands I saw, 5 hands I saw. Very interesting. If swapping was so easy, why we don't have swapping users more as compared to charging. So Krishna, to you, I think that's very important, because while we are seeing that charging infra has to grow, then swapping is equally going to come. Your takes on this, please.
Yes, so I think swapping is still in the nascent stage, at least in India. If you see countries like, for example, South Korea, Kogoro is actually selling more vehicles because of the swapping net, more swappable vehicles than all of the other OEMs who charge combined. So swapping definitely has its merits. Also, it has its disadvantages. So, of course, merits, you can swap 1-2 minutes and then you're on your way. But the second way, and maybe a lot of us don't think this way, but of course, electric vehicles may be great for the environment. They may be cheaper to operate, but I think one thing we all miss out on is the convenience, right? I'll never have to go to a fuel pump to refuel. And ideally, if I'm driving an electric vehicle, I don't want to go somewhere to recharge or swap, right? Because my vehicle is 80-90% of the time at home or at work. So my vehicle refuels, recharges while I'm there. That being said, I think swapping is a great fit for fleets, especially two-wheeler fleets which are on the road for, basically time is money for them. If the vehicle is off the road, they lose money. So swapping is definitely more expensive because there is more capex involved. For the battery, somebody has to buy the asset. Like for example, what Bounce did right now, you buy a vehicle without a battery, and if you compare the cost of charging versus swapping is comparatively higher. But if I spend 3 hours for charging my bike, I lose more money from the potential it would have given me if it is on the road.
Okay, I don't know how many of us will agree, because it's still time to know and notice how an Indian consumer behavior market is going to change. The adoption of EV is growing and it is at a very growth path. I think there's a tremendous growth versus what we are seeing. I think a few months back we had the 40,000 unit sale, which was one of the largest one, but I think it's still minuscule, right, for all of us to know. We all are sitting here at one of the largest forums today in India, and at the same time the Expo, which is running around for us. There is a very interesting thing which I would again like to put attention to all of us, and maybe if we have some answers. The questions are unknown to you guys, I know this. I dropped these all questions today while I was sitting at my booth today at Mad About Wheels. So what we do is, for a two-wheeler charger, it works on a 5 amp and maybe 6 amp and 15 amps, if I'm not wrong, as a charger. And four-wheelers, we have a different charging mechanism all put together, right? Whether we call an AC-DC charger or an AC charger or a DC charger, right? In that was a bit. How in smart technology versus like you're currently already in the growth path of developing a lot of technology, we can see intercompatibility. I'm using this word again. Intercompatibility of charging stations across two-wheelers, three-wheelers and four-wheelers, looking at the cost optimization for anyone to invest on ground. So who's going to take it, please?
Okay. So basically, in terms of like interoperability between the different segments of the vehicle, so there are two segments that I'll talk about. One is the AC chargers and one is the DC chargers. So AC chargers are like pretty much straightforward because you do not have to convert AC to DC power. And most of the vehicles have like onboard chargers that will convert this AC power to DC power, right? So you do not have to worry about that voltage difference.
Okay.
In terms of AC charging, right? Current is fine. You can provide any amount of current and the vehicle will take what it requires, right? The only issue with AC charging in compatibility between different vehicle segments is the connector difference, right? So two-wheelers will have a different connector, four-wheelers will have a different connector. And that is majorly because of the communication protocol that is there. So four-wheelers have like type 2 communication protocol. Two-wheelers, like there's no standardization, so it is industry-driven more or less. So it's like connector game and communication, not any other issue. When we talk about like DC chargers, that's where the real issue of compatibility is there because of the voltage difference of different vehicles. Now even four-wheelers have different batteries that work on different voltages. For example, like a Tata Nexon battery works on somewhere around 400 to 500 volts of DC power, and Tata Tigor, the GBT version, it works in somewhere around 70 to 80 volt, right? So when you pass DC power, you have to convert AC to DC. And the compatibility issue comes in what is the voltage range that you convert it to, right? So it is actually dependent on the battery and not on the charger there. When I talk about like DC charging.
I'll come back to Krishna for the same question to you. Before that, I think he has used a couple of words and terminologies if we look at. Somebody heard CCS, somebody heard GB by T,
GB.
right? If I am not, I heard these names. Is anybody aware of these terminologies in the, as a consumer market play, that there is something called as CCS, there is something called as CADMO, or there is something called as GB by T? Anybody is aware? Because we are sitting at a forum, we all should have something which is called transparent approach of learning, or else I'll put it to audience again, or maybe to the jury here or the panelist here, to at least explain us that we understand the smartness of the charging later. Is anybody aware of this? I think you raised hands, buddy. Please, why don't you explain or just put a brief to all of us, if you can. Can somebody put a mic there, please?
So in short, CCS, SHAdeMO, these are the charging point types which are connected to the electric vehicle. Most of these SHAdeMO basically started in Japan, if I'm not wrong, and CCS was either the European market or the American market. But in India, there is a separate set of standards that are followed, which are based on the CCS SHAdeMO, but they are being standardized. They are standardized as
Absolutely.
the Indian standards, the IS, if I'm not wrong.
Anybody else would like to take this? Anybody else has some more info to give us? Krishna, why don't you take this for us? Maybe this is very interesting and important for all of us, because I think most of the audience here, including me, we would like to understand these three abbreviatives in a very simple, very simple format way.
Yes.
Please.
So the reason why we needed standardization, right? Just like we have our mobile phones. So you have Android, Apple, which require different connectors. So the idea for creating these was to, standardize a connector. So irrespective of whoever sets up a charging station is able to charge a vehicle. That's where it came from. So of course, each country came up, or each geography came up with their own standards. So like he rightly said, CCS originated mainly in Europe. There are again two versions of CCS, used one in Europe and one in the US. There's SHAdeMO, which came up in Japan because of the Japanese OEMs. And then GBT originated from China. So the idea majorly with this standardization is to have a connector type. So any vehicle that follows to this connected type can be plugged into a charging station that adheres to it.
Right. So with this, I want to raise a question out here, which is again creating a dilemma actually when I go to the market, the field research which happens on ground, and whatever we talk to people, there's an anxiety. Sir, मेरा ये charger वहाँ लग जाएगा क्या? क्योंकि आज हमारे पास आप सबको पता होगा, कुछ अंदाजा है कितने apps हैं हमारे पास जहाँ पर हमें charging stations पता लगते हैं? Is everybody aware of how many charging apps are there? So as many companies, that many apps. So simple. Now we can count them very easy. But at the same time, please do this. This is a small thing, but insight to understand. Now when we have this, how will someone know easily that I can go to this place based on this app that I have a smart charger there which is for my vehicle? Because my vehicle has a 15 amp or a 5 amp or a 6 amp. How is it easy to find it on your applications or the applications which are currently in the market?
Finding a station on the app is simple, but today finding the app itself is difficult.
That's
Because there are
crazy.
about 100 apps
That's crazy.
that list separate stations.
I'll come to you, sure.
So I think that's
crazy.
where the challenge is.
So an interesting answer from the person who is already into the same. Finding the right app itself is a question, and we are talking about standardizations. So gentlemen, I come from a background of automobile. From 20 years of my work ex, I have seen that on an every component level, there is something called as the design. There is something called as the economics which have to work, which builds in a production. And if the production comes in, then there is coming the biggest element that's called safety. And safety and all, when we look at this huge way to go, there's a long way to go. And we are all talking here about the smart charging. Brilliant. I think, first of all, thank you so much for giving such an honest answer. So you had something to say. I think if somebody can just put a mic over here, please. Yeah, little urgent.
I just had a small point to add. So even though you have to search for the app, only after entering the app, you know whether the charging point is actually working or not.
Lovely.
So you know that's one thing. Even though there are platforms like Google that recognizes where the chargers are, but you need to search for the charging operator and then go into the app to really find out whether the charger is
So
working
I
or
have
not.
teams from Skill India, I have teams from AIDC. I'll request that this point we taken, because this we should really work upon, that how to find a charging station which is applicable from a service standpoint. I think we are working on some lot of things. We can take this up. This is a brilliant thing. I think this has brought us some more new dimension. Maybe an aggregator of a new startup comes in and he builds on something new, right? Okay. So we talked about intercompatibility, we talked about swapping a bit. Let us get into a very different thing. I think there was a read, if I hope we all are getting into the automotive EV crux of the stories and the magazines and the stories digital, we all are hearing. There's an AC charger, there's a DC charger. Okay, can somebody define it over here from the audience? I'm sorry I'm putting so many questions because I'm trying to make it more interactive, right? We all may be doing our work, but if somebody can tell us the difference or the necessity of having these two in parallel. Yeah, please. Yes, gentlemen. Let's hear it
Hello.
out.
So, as you talk about AC chargers and DC chargers, AC chargers are those which are low powered, like up to 22 kilowatts maximum, and they work on onboard charger technology, which is presented inside the vehicle. And DC chargers are those which are high powered chargers, around starting from 50 kilowatts up to 400 kilowatts. And many companies in Europe are testing about 1 megawatts of charging, DC charging. So this is the basic difference between AC and DC. Like AC are the low powered charger and used inside there is a onboard charger inside the vehicle which is used for AC charger, and DC charging in which the AC to DC conversion is done externally in the charger.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. It was really welcoming that we had this coming from the audience. Great. I don't have to do much on it. Thank you so much. What's your name?
Aman Goyal.
Thank you, Aman. Thank you so much. Please be
Thank you.
seated. Okay. See, I'm creating some questions in a way that we agree or we disagree. If we don't agree or disagree, there is no solution which can come in. So we have a scooter or an two-wheelers today where we say every manufacturer gives a charging along with it, maybe a charging unit or an entire charging process, I would say, right? I can't call it a charging station, am I right? So we can frame it in a portable charger. Can we put it in a portable charger, or we cannot put it in a portable charger process? Can we define this charger along with the two-wheelers in a portable charger condition?
Yeah, I think
Is it a smart charger now?
smart, I think, is a loosely used term these days. But yeah, you could call it a portable charger.
Portable chargers. Okay. So we all have seen portable chargers in two-wheelers. Trust me, it's in three-wheeler. Trust me, it is also available in the four-wheeler. Which means charging anxiety should not be actually a problem. Let's bring in a solution in our mind, as I said, switch on and switch off, right? So if we put it as an on condition and my charging is already full when I left my house, then we know that the apps and all what we're talking about, we can definitely figure them out and we can definitely work on that. Couple of them we know, we can always express them to you and find it on that. But this portable charger part, there is also something called as a portable charging station, right? So I would like to throw this question to both of you, and I would like to maybe, have in two pieces an answer, because I'm sure there are a couple of pieces to this. Two pieces an answer, that how do you see that a mobility two-wheeler and a three-wheeler will have a separate portable process and a four-wheeler will have a separate portable process, because this is what is current, right? So you can take the two-wheeler, three-wheeler, you can take the four-wheeler part as you wish, right?
Yeah, so every four-wheeler comes with a portable charger, right? Because ideally, you should be able to charge your vehicle at home. That is the basic concept. So you have a charger that plugs into your 15 amp socket and the other end plugs into your vehicle and you charge. But the flip side of this is the charging process is very, very slow. So if you take Nexon, for example, Nexon charges at about 3 kilowatt using that setup. Whereas MG ZS EV charges at about 1.8 kilowatt. So imagine I'm charging a 45 kilowatt hour battery at 1.8 kilowatt. So I have to charge for 25 hours. So the idea of that portable charger, at least for four-wheelers, is just as a backup, but very rarely used. But today with four-wheelers, you also get a charging station. So I think to me the difference between a portable charger and a charging station, I don't know what a portable charging station is, but I think it's a charging station or a portable charger, and charging station is fixed. So basically the power to it is hardwired. You cannot take it, move it as and when you want. So today you're already getting it with the vehicle, so you get it installed at your home, work, wherever you want, and then your vehicle charges at a quicker speed at least. Now again, these are actually for these devices, there's no need for these devices to send data to the cloud. That is because these are installed in your house where it is normally only you who's using it. So I think for multiple factors, including cost, I think people are just giving, however you want to term it, maybe a dumb charger or a simple charger. You just get it installed and it is solving the purpose of charging your vehicle.
Okay, how do we see cost versus the application, which means a customer who is using a four-wheeler today, his units of consumption with the smart charger, is he able to understand whether this power fluctuating thing, which every home in India we see there is a lot of fluctuation, it's going to be safe for us to have the stations at home?
I don't see a problem with it. Our grid is in some places maybe not so great, but it's not that bad as well. The vehicles, the charging stations, everything are designed with enough protections in place. So even if there are voltage spikes, under voltage, I think the basic conditions are always factored in. So,
okay. So Akshit, there is something called as the copper wire, the thickness is used for a particular setting up the charging station, right? And when we say that, we are using it from the main power line to the charging station, we are taking care of the safety part of it. But what about the fluctuations which we see coming from the government in terms of when we are going on the highways and the main markets, which are the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, where the adoption is higher than the urban cities today? How do you see your smart charger brings in a lot of understanding to the customer that it's going to be safe again? I'm coming from the safe as I'm using it again. I'll come on that question again in the later course of time. Please.
Okay, so one of the major reasons why a charger, specifically an AC charger, is installed is because it takes care of the safety. Right? There are only certain things that an AC charger does, because it takes the power, gives the same power. What it does in between is it makes sure that it's safe. Like if there's over voltage, under voltage, it's already taken care inside the charger. If there is current leakage, it shuts off because there's a ground fault detection that happens there. So all the safety features that needs to be there, like earthing, that's taken care by the charger. That is one of the reasons. Other than that, it just does connectivity and talks to the car. That's it.
Okay, great. So why I put this question for all of us, actually, I think one should understand, I'm not coming from that hinting out or pointing out anybody, but we saw a lot of hazards coming in very recent times. We saw some battery which has gone into a blast or whatever we say, and a couple of people who had been doing it. But the answers which come is like charging not done well, charging was maybe the bad, the power fluctuations are wrong or something. So how is it easy for us to detect, I would say, using a word, detect, that the issue is not from the charging and maybe it's somewhere in the application of the mobility?
Yeah, basically, so how a charger works is when you connect it to the vehicle, there's a BMS system that's run on the battery of the vehicle.
So do you say that every vehicle which comes on road has got a BMS?
More or less, yes. Not the lithium, like lead acid batteries, three-wheelers, but yeah, more or less like lithium ion modern vehicles do come with.
So the point here out for all of you to know is that BMS is the key, and we all should encourage the vehicles which we are procuring. We should buy them with the technology aspect, keeping in mind safety angle. Let's not encourage something which is not good. We are sitting in one of the biggest forums and I represent you guys and I'm talking on behalf of this whole community of EV. I might be doing something wrong. Please tell me that I'm wrong. We should change it because that's the change which we have to bring. Buying at an easy cost, at a nominal cost is easy for us to keep economics of money as a pocket friendly, but not from the safety angle. I think nothing comes first than our safety. So we have a very interesting question now again here. Before I put this to the audience, then the last 10 minutes, how do you see government helping each and every startup out here from a smart, or maybe building a smart EV charging hubs in the country?
At least my personal opinion, I try not to dependent on government or subsidies for the company. I think as long as getting simple stuff done like getting an electrical connection and AV meter is easy enough, I'm good with that. So fortunately, it's good in some states. Some states it is really difficult to do that. So I think it's just about again just ease of doing business. Whatever is there as part of the policy, if I can just get it, I'm happy with that.
Akshat, same on you, please. Take it.
Yeah, I see the government is putting a lot of efforts in terms of policy. So we see a lot of good policies coming from the central government as well as a lot of different state governments like Delhi has mandated like buildings with more than 100 parking should have like EV chargers, right? And a lot of states like Maharashtra, they're giving subsidies on the on EVs as well as EV chargers. So there are a lot of such policies that are coming up that are helping. The one thing, and there are special EV tariffs for like in different states, right? They are subsidized. So in Delhi, you get it at 4 rupees. In Haryana, you get it at 6 rupees, whereas the commercial rate is around 8 to 9 rupees, right? So these are the policies that the government is coming up with. What I think a suggestion I would have is that the implementation should be better because the policies are really great. The implementation, I think, would take time, but yeah, it could be better than it is today. So that's it.
Thank you so much. Before I take them on any other question, I think I would look at, keeping to the audience now who had been very patient with us and hearing us out. We might have done something good, maybe bad. Let's not talk about the critics. Maybe we try to bring in something very interesting. I think, can I have few mics, please? Excuse me, can I have few mics, please? I would like you guys to come forward and make it more interactive in terms of asking some questions which are in the acceptance to build this whole ecosystem, because that's where this journey will take us to, and that's what we are building in terms of taking the next footsteps and bringing a green evolution in the country once again, right? So I think you have a question, please. There was a mic for you.
Hello, don't you mind if I ask first?
Please. Sir,
you.
have a seat here. Yes.
So thank you everyone, and I am very impressed by your views. And actually Krishna sir is from electrical background. So my question is more related to you, like recently I have studied the cold storage part of India. And we are talking about the smart chargers, battery chargers. So indirectly we are loading the grid, which is actually operating for the particular amount that we are required. And in future, the automatically power requirement increases more because the charges will more, so power requirement will goes more. So what do you think about this call outreach? What you will want to say? And if you take care about the renewable examples, like Akshit sir already told, like they integrated the plants with the grid and the solar power plant using the net meter like synchronization. But I belong to Rajasthan, so in there is a policy. Like if we have to connect a net meter, we have only 80% of the total load capacity. We can only connect only that much of amount. But at the time of night, like in the middle of highways, if this condition of outrage again comes into the picture in future, sometimes maybe renewables will not work at night, and my car got stuck in the middle of the highways. So is there any option, just like I have power bank for my mobile, so is there any option for four-wheelers also like a power bank system or not? Please, thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes, so I know a couple of companies globally that are working on mobile charging applications. So basically there's a battery bank which stores energy and you connect that to charge your vehicle. How efficient that is, I don't know, because a lot of cost and of course you have more losses because you're using power to charge a battery which you're reusing to charge another battery. So there are inefficiencies there. But I think the question you pointed out is absolutely right. It is not only in India, but it's a global challenge. Right? Now we are saying let's go solar, let's build renewable energy. But all of us know, like you pointed out, that solar energy is only generated during the day. So but most of the charging happens at night. How do you handle the situation? Are you still using coal to power your EVs? At which point EVs may not be cleaner? So I think there are more solutions that will come up going forward. Energy storage is one. So for example, batteries are used in vehicles. There's a term called secondary life
Second
of a
life,
battery.
yeah.
So basically the battery is used in a vehicle for 6-7 years. Once the battery reaches about 70% of its capacity is when they say it's end of life. After which it can be used for energy storage. So maybe solutions like that will come in.
And these processes are working, by the way. These processes are working. It's only that it will come to the common life with some time because they are used for the industrial applications right now. So yeah, sir, you had a question, please.
My question.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. My question is very simple. I am an EV manufacturer. I've been in electronics trade for the last 40 years, and my expertise is in batteries, charging batteries. When I look at the data of all these cell manufacturers, whether it is Cattle or Goshen or any of these manufacturers, they stipulate life of the battery at 0.3 C charging rate. And if you charge faster, your life will drop from 5,000 cycles to 1,000 cycles.
2,000 cycles, yeah.
Now, no customer or no person I'm talking about, he is just talking fast charging. I can charge my vehicle in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and I can go vroom, vroom. But no one is educating him that if you do fast charging, what is the life of your cell going to be? Recently there was a talk of explosion of cells. Recently we had a case wherein we were testing a cell and we did a fast charging in it, deliberately. And there was a dendrite formation taking place at fast charging, if you are aware of cell technology, that shorted the cells inside, and we had an explosion in our hands.
Absolutely.
So this fast charging tout that is happening, is anyone sensitizing the public?
That's the request I made. Please look at what we are buying, right? I didn't say what we are selling. I said what we are buying, please try and get yourself educated.
It's not from buying point of view. We are touting fast charging stations without educating our customer base. What is the reality?
See, a charging unit, I'm taking it on your behalf, guys. So the charging unit cannot be a problem sensitized. What problem comes is in the terms of the formulation which is taken care of, because of which a hazard can happen, because of which the connections can have an issue. The mobility is not like a mobile, we have a lithium ion, it's in our pocket. We take it and carry it. The mobility is carrying us. It's on the road. Guys, there is a difference between the application of lithium being used. Right, so I think, sir, we respect you and we take this question and we definitely park all this. We have a question here from the lady, please. Yeah.
Hi, hello everyone. So my question is with EVs getting popular in India, how are we going to take care of disposing or recycling lithium-ion batteries?
Again, can you have a question again, please?
Right.
We didn't hear it.
So with EVs getting popular in India, how are we going to take care of disposing or recycling lithium-ion batteries in India?
We are at the second stage of the question. I think that needs a new conference for this. But yes, we are currently at the initial stage and there are people who are already working on the recyclable processes and creating startups around it. It's not about startup, I would say. It's about the people who are building certain ecosystems which will take care of it. Like we talked about, Krishna talked about, the second life, right? So there is work in progress, but let's not take it into that circle right now. But yes, question is valid and we acknowledge this. Thank you so much. Anyone else, please?
Hello. My name is Baljit and the only question which I want to ask is that what is the temperature range in which the battery can perform better? Because there are so many temperature difference in all over entire world and according to the temperature, battery performs in different manner. And one more question I want to ask is, what is the window of it? The battery range of that window?
What is it?
the battery range, like in a complete cell, there's a range in which battery can work, and it depends on temperature. So according to the temperature, it varies.
Yes, like you said, lithium ion is very sensitive to temperature. Ideally, lithium ion works best at about 25 degrees centigrade to 35 degrees centigrade. And of course, it's not, and when the battery is charging or discharging, it generates heat apart from the ambient temperature. That is why for four-wheelers, most of the four-wheelers, you have thermal conditioning. So either you have air-cooled or liquid-cooled battery packs. At times, your air conditioning itself maintains the temperature of the battery pack.
So like in EV, we are mostly using lithium. And apart from that, what we have another source, because lithium is very difficult to extract from the earth, and it is a natural source. And after that, we have no other source to produce any batteries so that we can run EVs in future.
My friend, lithium is just the start. There are a lot of technologies which are coming, and the batteries are going to be more and more refined in the coming times. Don't worry about that. What is most important is how we adopt this whole EV ecosystem, how we adopt this charging issues which are going in the critical market, like the highways which we have the typical rural markets we have, where the electricity itself is a concern. So there are a lot more things, but there are many more technologies. It will go up to the solid state in the times to come, whether we are there or not. The next generations will see that. The technologies are there, beautiful ones, which are still to come to India. I have a gentleman here, a delegate I can see by the name as Darshak. I would request you to participate, please.
Yeah, sorry.
Any question you have, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Darshak from IHS Market. We are tracking all the four-wheeler technology trends across the world. And okay, so one of the interesting trends that we witnessed in the case of charging is that compared to global markets in India, we expect that the charging frequency is going to be significantly higher because the average battery capacities based on our forecast are going to be low. And so when we say, let's say the average battery capacities are going to be in the range of 35 to 40 for a passenger car, how are we expecting the charging trends to evolve? That's one. And the second is that do we expect fast chargers like, let's say, 80 to 100 kilowatt available in the Indian market, and for what applications?
Interesting question. And this question is coming from the research side directly, so please take this. Thank you so much. Nice question, Darshan.
Yeah, I think both of us got just part of the question, but okay, I can re-verify the question. So it is, you're saying because the battery size is smaller, you would charge frequently, is that what you were asking?
To cover the same kilometers, how do you see that the capacity of the charging unit will change?
Yeah, so considering the cost of the batteries and considering the cost projections that we have in the future and purchase power parity in India, based on our own financial models and based on our own projections, we expect that the average battery capacities are going to remain low. And if we look at the overall trends, we expect that the vehicle in use at the moment is relatively higher in India compared to other regions. So this ultimately leads to more frequent charging of the vehicle compared to other geographies. So how are you what are the thoughts and projections that we have, and any strategic insights that we have on this matter?
Sure. So I guess where you're coming from is because of the battery life, right? But if you see the average distance driven by an individual in India is about 35 kilometers. So you drive about 35 kilometers per day. Any car, right? Even if you for example, take a two-wheeler. So I think the two-wheeler with the least range, you still get it about 80, 90 kilometers for a full charge. So that means you still need to charge for once in 2 or 3 days. So I don't think battery life cycle is such a challenge because our driving distances are much lower compared to the other parts of the world.
On this note, I would like to first conclude the forum first because of the time what we have. But a great audience you have been. First of all, I would say applaud for yourself. Thank you so much for being here and being a great, a friend to talk. Thank you so much. And let's have an applaud for Akshit, Krishna, and Soni. So my name is Amresh, Khar. With this, I would like that we should do the felicitation a bit, and then we move forward for your next forum. Thank you so much. It was lovely having you here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khar. Indeed, it was a very entertaining as well as a knowledgeable and a very interactive session that we saw. And I hope that we have more such sessions tomorrow as well. But we'd like to end this session with saying a very thank you to all the panel members. So I'd request Mr. Khar, the moderator, for this session to please felicitate the panel members. I'd request Mr. Khar to please first felicitate Mr. Akshit Bansal, founder Statiq. Thank you so much, Mr. Bansal. It was indeed a pleasure listening to you. I'd now request Mr. Khar to also felicitate Ms. Kapila Soni, Managing Director, Croyance Automotive Private Limited. Thank you, ma'am, for your lovely presentation. And now I'd request Mr. Khar to also felicitate Mr. Krishna Jasti, CEO, EVRE. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Can we have a round of applause for all the panel members? And I'd also would like to thank especially Mr. Khar for a very interactive, a very useful and helpful session. So thanks to you as well, sir.
Most welcome.
Thank you so much for a very important and a very interactive session on smart technologies for charging EVs. And before we move on, I'd like to especially thank our strategic partner, RootScale, and I'd like to invite on stage Ms. Bhavisha Buddhadio, founder, RootSkills, and present memento. So I'd request Ms. Bhavisha Buddhadio, founder, RootSkill, to please be on stage. We'd like to felicitate you. You're the partner for the program today. Ma'am, please be on stage. And I'd request Sonia ma'am to please.
I would like to invite, excuse me. I would like to invite my friend and my cousins and brother, okay, Dipen Barai, yes. And Kapila Soni. Kapila, I want you on a stage, please. Kapila can felicitate you. Kapila can felicitate you. Sab. Sir, please, sir. आप भी आ जाइए. Yes. Okay. Fine. My name is Bhavisha Buddhadev, and Green Society India, I am the advisor, and RootSkills is the strategic partner here. Yes,
Sonia ma'am.
So I request Kapila Soni ma'am, Managing Director, Croyance Automotive Private Limited, to please felicitate. And Sonia ma'am as well.
Sir, आप और सोनिया मैम.
And